This Rodecaster Pro 2 is now 2 years old. And in this new world of audio gear with upgrades seemingly coming every year, it begs the question, is this, the Rodecaster Pro 2, still worth your money? Or is it becoming obsolete and perhaps we should now be looking forward to the next one in the series? Well, let me put your mind at ease with one thing right away. I don't think the Rodecaster Pro 2 is going anywhere anytime soon. And there's some pretty cool reasons why. First off, one of the reasons this thing stood out when it was released was it was built to the cutting edge of specs, not necessarily something that was done with podcasting gear at the time. You see, there was always some trade-off when buying into the podcast gear craze, and it seemed like it always fell a bit short of pro or even prosumer. But Rode had a plan. You see, the original Rodecaster Pro taught them a lot about what the community was asking for. Go anywhere on the internets, and you would see the posts about where it could get better, what things it held back. And Rode listened to them all. They didn't leave anything off the table. They left nothing to chance. They took feedback from the original unit and capitalized on it. Simply put, they set out to create the ultimate audio solution, and, well, they kind of did. So much so that after 2 years of being on the market, they still have yet to be matched or surpassed. That means all the competition out there hasn't been able to manufacture the same thing or better in 2 years. Now, of course, Mackie did come close, but even then, so much of what makes the Rodecaster Pro 2 so special is the fine detail in everything. And that is exactly what probably kept the competition away. The next reason, though, that the Rodecaster Pro 2 is here to stay is, well, it was built to last. And I don't mean that like a Chevy commercial. You see, when Rode committed to creating this as the successor to the original Rodecaster Pro, they wanted to make sure this thing had an upgrade path for everything. So they created this with a very wide back door. Wink. They went out of their way to make this thing a living unit, which is why everything was built to the cutting edge spec. That's why the preamps were clean with a ton of gain. That's why there are 2 USBs for multi-computer use or other things. All these things that this unit was built with had one thing in common. They were not going to hold back the unit over time. They weren't going to become the second place unit when some company releases a board with slightly better preamps. And they definitely weren't going to be usurped by some company that made an interface with more versatility. Rest assured, the specs on this unit are just as good as they were day one. But let's look at that back door, shall we? Get out of here. Now, all jokes aside, this thing was left open to upgrade or change almost anything. And you can see that in the routing alone. Being able to route any channel to any fader, being able to route any source to any headphone, connecting a USB mic to the unit for an extra guest on a podcast, even reducing the latency on the headphones, which I'm pretty sure that's something they're working on. This unit is meant to continue on as a standard instead of being relegated to e-waste after a couple of years. Now, their intention from day one was to make sure that this device was the device for years to come, and it would only be ready for a physical successor when technology advanced. Rode single-handedly stopped the tech gatekeeping that the whole audio industry was complicit in since day one. Again, even 4 years ago, if you wanted a device that could adequately drive an SM7B without an external preamp, you were looking at going into a Pro series of gear. And we have to give a nod to Rode for this because it's all thanks to the fact that they built everything they make on site. None of this is outsourced. Even the body is created in their facilities. Nothing here is being held back by the technological restraints of another company. Rode still holds all their own upgrades in their hands. And better yet, all these upgrades that have been locked behind paywalls for years are now pushing companies to also bring this stuff to the masses. Go ahead, try to find a newer interface with less than 60 dB of clean gain. It's actually quite hard these days. Now, gone are the days where research and development are set aside for pro gear, and that the rest of us just have to wait until some of this stuff trickles down. Rode sped that process up quite a bit. And while all this sounds like flag waving, well, it kind of is. But Rode earned their place, and they continue to cement their lead over the rest of the industry with gear that is just as relevant today as it was the day it was released. And that's impressive. So then, with all that behind us, can this still be improved upon? I think so, and I think Rode also thinks so, and I think they're actively doing just that, coming up with ways to make this impact the market more and more. So then, What things could make this better? Well, I do actually have to preface this. I don't have any knowledge of what Rode has planned with this unit going forward. But the one thing I would love to see is a daisy chain for add-on channels. Now, we've seen this thing be able to take on a USB mic, which is really cool and a great way to add another voice to an already big podcast. But what if there was a way to add a couple more XLRs for those in need of the extra versatility? And I used to question if these kinds of things were possible for Rode, but those doubts are quickly drying up. How about a breakout box of 2 or more extra inputs through the USB 2 port? And yeah, I get it, it would be niche, and I'm not looking to find a way to record drums through a Rodecaster Pro 2. Or am I? But why not? XLR inputs are the one hard-line upgrade that this thing is limited to, which is a ridiculous thought, by the way, when you consider all the ways you can get audio into this thing, like wireless, Bluetooth. But again, this thing is so feature-packed that there are still features on here that I don't even use. And that is the core reason why we haven't really had a rush to dethrone this thing like we did with the OG RCP. Companies at the time tried to release competition, but they failed to outdo anything that the Rodecaster could do. So Rode just did it themselves. And now there doesn't seem to be much left to be improved upon. It does seem like this section of the podcasting industry belongs to Rode now. Now, the other thing I would love to see, but somewhat minor, I would say, is a guitar tuner on this thing. We have all the things for DI through the board, including a setting for that, but that's pretty much it. Now, you can do that through a DAW, but wouldn't it be kind of cool just to plug in and tune? Again, just to expand this into more of a musical tool, as it does seem to be launched with that in mind. Now, by the way, in honor of this board turning to, we have some pretty cool content coming up, using this thing in a way you might not expect. No, not that, you weirdo. But this is something you're going to want to see, so get subscribed so you don't miss that. Anyhow, let me know, what do you think are the ways that the Rodecaster Pro 2 could get better? Let me know down below, because Rode, they're always listening, and you never know if your comment could make them start down a path to a whole new use case for this thing. Cheers, guys, and thanks for watching.